Hey everyone, how are you all? Welcome to my channel's tutorial section. In this video, we'll be learning how to carve permanent maxillary central incisor. So let's start. First we'll start with marking of the aspects of the tooth: labial, mesial, palatal and distal. Now we'll mark the central axis of the tooth, just a rough guideline. Now just connect these lines on the top of the block so that you can get the center of the axis of the block. Next we'll be marking the dimensions of the tooth. We know our crown portion measures 10.5 mm. We'll take 0.5 mm extra to have an ease of carving. This is how we mark it on the block using divider. And now the root length, which is 13 mm. Mark the Mesio-Distal width of the crown, that is 8.5 mm, but we'll take a little extra, mark it to the 9 mm. Mark it on the top or the incisal aspect of the block and on also the opposite side. Now we'll cut straight along these markings to the crown length. Mark the labiolingual width of the crown, that is 7 mm, but we'll take a little extra to about 7.5 mm. Mark it on the incisal aspect and also on the opposite side. Now we'll cut it straight down to the marking of the crown length to make a cuboid. Make straight parallel walls within the marked dimensions. Now mark the mesio-distal dimension at the cervical. Now make a cut or a small notch at this marking on both proximal sides. These notches will mark the start of curvature or the contour that we require. Don't worry about the curvature of the cervical line, it will be made later on. We know that the mesial side has a straighter outline with sharper incisal angle, and the crest of curvature close to the incisal edge. And the distal will be with the curved broad contact area. Mesial straighter and distal curved. Let's check our crown length before proceeding. Okay, it's 11, just 0.5 mm more than what we need. We'll be using this to have ease in making cervical line, and our crown will be of the required dimension. See how I am using the flat side of the carver and the angle at which it is placed to make a curve. We are making the distal side, right? keep mesial side straighter. And keep extending it all the way to the palatal side. Okay, so we have achieved a straighter mesial side and curved distal side. As you can see, on the distal side, I have not kept my angle of the blade to full length of the crown, rather to half the length. You can see how I am changing the angle of the carver blade to achieve the curvature. We must have that broad contact area and the crest of curvature more cervical from the incisal angle. Okay, now we'll do the labiolingual side. Key feature on this side is that the central axis of the block crosses the incisal edge. We'll mark the cross again. This midline will keep the incisal edge and the tip of the root in same line. We have to keep the crest of contour near the cervical. We'll mark the labiolingual dimension at cervical. At this point, we'll recheck our crown length so that okay, so we'll make the notch here as before in the cervical third. The level of the crest of curvature on the palatal side is almost at the same level as on the labial. Now continue this notch mesio-distally. Do the same on the labial side also. Now next thing is to get the incisal edge in the central axis from the labial surface. To do so, we just need to keep a plane angulated from here to the center of the block. Try to make it flat. It is very important to follow the central axis. Run the blade to the full width. See, from the proximal side we have got the bulge. We'll reduce it. Be careful while carving in this angle. Do not create a depression. I would suggest to rather avoid this angle. Keep it flat. Now we'll give the curvature or the scallop at the cervical. We'll manage the curvature of the cervical easily later since we have taken a slight excess dimension. Okay, So now we'll do the same on the palatal aspect also, following the central axis of the block. So we'll connect the incisal edge at the midline to the crest of curvature, which is cingulum here. Do the gross cutting. Maintain the plane from the incisal edge to the cingulum from the flat side of the blade. Now we'll make the palatal concavity above the cingulum with the curved end of the blade. You need to scoop out to get the concavity. As I've described in my basic tips tutorial, you can use this curved end or the discoid end to scoop out. Get the bulge of the cingulum in this cervical level. Now we have achieved this shape from the proximal view. We'll proceed to the triangular or the V shape from the incisal view. It will reduce the mesio-distal width of the cingulum. Now from the mesial side we know the mesial outline from the incisal view is longer because cingulum is shifted slightly to the distal. So the mesial marginal ridge is longer and distal is shorter. So we'll start on the distal side from the incisal edge to the cingulum, keeping it slightly away from the center, slightly distal. In this way we are keeping the distal marginal ridge shorter. Keep mesial marginal ridge slightly closer to the midline so that the mesial marginal ridge stays longer. You can see the cingulum shifted towards the distal. The image as of now we are getting is of a shovel type. We should get the incisal edge close to the mid-axis. Now we'll get this crest of the contour slightly down. We'll learn how to change the level of contour. If you'll keep the carver like this, it will follow this plane. If you want to lower this bulge, you'll have to carve at this angle. Only then you'll get this bulge at this position. So change the angle of the blade and carve. See, that's how you do it. Now carry the same angle to the full mesio-distal width on labial side. Don't give multiple angles to your blade, that will give curves. Follow in planes. So now we are getting some shape of a central incisor. Okay, so we can see we have a sharp line angles in every aspect. We'll round them off using the flat side of the blade. It's easy, just rotate your tooth while you're carving rather than moving your carver. Do it to the full length of the crown. Well, now we'll pick up the features of the distal and mesial side. This is the distal side where we have more rounded features and more curvatures. First we'll make the round disto-incisal angle. Continue from the cervical line to give the curvature to the distal outline. Notice the angle of the blade that I have kept. Try to get the crest of curvature more cervical from the incisal angle. Carve more the cervical and at the incisal angle to get a broad curvature on the distal. So we have given the desired curvature. This side we have to keep it straight and sharper incisal angle. Carve at the cervical with very minimum angle to the blade, keeping it almost straight. Merge the facial plane with the proximal plane and the outline. Round off the mesiolabial line angle with full length of the blade. Now we see we have distal curvature, broader contact area, straight mesial outline and sharp incisal angle. We'll round off these line angles. Don't use the curved side, that will make ditches. Use straight side to round off. See, we have got all the line angles smooth and rounded. Now we'll develop the cervical line on each aspect. Just demarcate the cervical line a bit, the proximals and the palatal. On the mesial, the curvature is higher and in distal, it's lower. Don't make them too deep, just a subtle demarcation. Just try to draw with the tip of the carver. It will be carved along the root to give the crown the emerging look. Round off the facial line angles to give the curvature. Okay, let's make the edge a little sharper. It's a bit thick. Now we'll make another feature, that is the incisal edge, which is prominent part of the ridge. Incisor has two edges, the labio-incisal edge and the palato-incisal edge. First we'll get the labial side close to the midline to get one plane of the ridge. Then from the palatal side, get close to the midline. This will build the labio-incisal edge and automatically the palato-incisal edge. Okay, so we are done with the gross shaping of the tooth now. So you can see the beveled incisal portion with two edges here, the labio-incisal edge and the palato-incisal edge. Keep rounding off the line angle at this marginal ridge with the straight side of the carver. Use very light strokes to the full length. We'll smooth this incisal edge too. Smoothen the lingual area. Keep the carvings clean so that you can visualize better. Now we'll carve the lingual fossa. Start developing the marginal ridges first. Use the tip of the flat side of the carver to make the extensions of the ridge and slowly carve to raise the ridge. A W-shaped lingual fossa appears because of developmental grooves from the cingulum to the fossa. After scribbing the W shape, just carve out the lingual fossa in between. Use the curved end of the blade to carve the concavity. You can use the discoid end also to develop the concavity of the fossa. You can use earbuds to polish this concavity. Finish any rough surface and polish again. Also, backside of the discoid end can be used to even up the roughness. We'll round off this sharpness at the cingulum. Just redefine the linguo-incisal edge. This is our crown portion of the central incisor. Check for any corrections and refine. Here we can see slight bulge on the mesial side at the cervical. We'll straighten this. Okay, so we are done here with the crown. Now we'll proceed to the root carving. We'll follow this marking for carving root. The root should be triangular in shape and in the central axis, such that the incisal edge and the root tip lies in the same line. And from the labial side, its tip should be distally tilted. To start, we'll cut the excess straight down. Also check the root length mark. Again, use the back side of the carver to make straight plane. Cut straight from the all aspects. From labial, root will follow a gradual taper. From proximal side, root will be slide parallel till 2/3 of the coronal part and will taper in apical third. In cross section, follow the shape of crown from the cervical, that is V-shaped from the lingual side. Basically, we are making a triangular cross section of the root. Remember, your carving strokes from root should start just from the cervical line. Keep maintaining the triangular cross section of the root along with the taper and tilt of the tip. So here you can see the V shape. Go straight down and then taper to the center, following the midline. Do remember the level of cervical line. Now from the labial aspect, start tapering the root from both proximal sides. From proximal side again taper to the midline from labial side in the apical third. Refine the root from the cervical lines to give it an emergence look. Now keep carving the shape, just remember to follow the triangular root shape in cross section and taper to midline. Root should be straight from the cervical line and not bulging from the cervical line. Keep in mind to develop the root tilt towards distal. Here we have got a gross shape of the central incisor. We'll do some corrections to get the final shape. Okay, here we can see the bulge, we'll correct it later, but first we'll do the cervicals. Redefine the cervical line. Here we are clearing off the convexity at the cervical of the mesial side. Now we can appreciate incisal edge in the central axis. Let's clear the base to develop the tilt of the root tip. We'll give a slight flat look on the incisal two-third. To correct the plane or the angle, hold the carver at the desired angle. Round off the sharp line angles if any develops. You can see the curvature here. Remove any flakes of the wax and polish with very light pressure with clean cotton. Aim is to remove all the carver scratches and achieve smooth surface. Deep scratches should be cleared with carver only and polish with the cotton later. We'll add some details to get the appearance of lobes. Make two V-shaped notches. You can use thinner carver for the same. Smoothen these notches now. You can use the backside of discoid end to merge them. These notches should be tapering towards the cervical and gradually merging with the facial side. You can use cotton earbud to smoothen and polish these notches. So that's how you carve a maxillary central incisor. I hope this video was useful. So keep watching and keep practicing.